3 hours, 44 minutes, 42 pages, 118 numbered answers. A PDF of it started moving around the Chinese internet this week. It is Liang Wenfeng, the founder of DeepSeek, talking to the investors who had just handed him 50 billion yuan, about $7 billion, in his first outside round. In this video, I am summarizing every prediction he made in that room and why you should care what this particular man thinks. Game on. So, first of all, who is he? In January 2025, his lab shipped an open model called R1. Nvidia lost about $589 billion of market value in one trading day, largest single-day loss in US market history. After that, Baidu went from 0 open releases to more than 100. ByteDance and Tencent multiplied theirs 8 and 9 times. He did not join the open source race. He started it. And he talks nothing like the American lab bosses. Dario Amodei spends his interviews on half of entry-level white-collar jobs disappearing. Liang spends 4 hours on procurement. 5 of his claims carry a real number or a real deadline. I will count them off. And at the end, the reason this leak cost him a second funding round. Here's the story the West told about DeepSeek. A small Chinese lab, boxed out of the best chips, invented its way around the wall. Proof that you do not need 100,000 GPUs to reach the frontier. Efficiency as genius. Bloomberg framed the company as leading China's bid to flood the world with cheap AI. Behind a closed door, to people who had just wired him billions, Liang said something close to the opposite. His words, Item 56 of the transcript. All the differences we see, talent, model capability, applications, can be attributed to differences in compute resources, one variable. Everything else is downstream of it. He is not short of money. He is short of things to buy. Spending 20 billion yuan this year, he said, would mean the procurement team did an exceptional job. It is extremely difficult to spend that much. You cannot buy that many chips, and the prices are high. The number he gave for his own compute, roughly 20,000 H equivalents, most of it delivered in the previous month or two. That is the entire lab. If he could convert the whole funding round into cards inside 6 months, he said, that would be ideal. It is not going to happen. Then he sized the gap. The largest model in the world right now runs around 800 billion activated parameters. Chinese labs, his own included, are working at a few tens of billions activated. One order of magnitude on the number that decides how much a model can hold. To train at 800 billion, he said, he would need around 50,000 Nvidia GB300s or 200,000 Huawei cards. And that is training alone. It does not include the research runs you burn before you know what to train. So when his investors asked about talent, he refused the question. Talent is not the bottleneck, resources are. Less compute means fewer experiments. Fewer experiments means weaker researchers. In his framing, the talent gap is a compute gap wearing a different name. He went further. There is almost no difference in talent, he said, because it is essentially the same pool of people, many of them Chinese. Some stayed, some left, and it was not the strongest who left. That is a striking thing to say to a room of investors. Now the number that got him in trouble. Asked how far behind the US he is, he said 12 months, then 12 to 18, then 6 to 12. Then he summarized, about 2 years behind, using 1/20th of the compute. 4 answers in one breath. That is a man estimating out loud, and the transcript itself goes fuzzy right at that point, which is exactly why you should treat this document as a set of hypotheses and not a roadmap. His stated goal is to keep the fraction and close the clock, a sliver of their compute, and the gap down from 2 years to 6 months, to 3 months. He set it as a target in a room where people were writing checks, and on scaling he is not hedging at all. Bigger is always better. What stops us is compute, not desire. Then the line that should bother Silicon Valley. When Silicon Valley says scaling has hit a ceiling, that is for Silicon Valley. We in China are nowhere near that point. Second claim, and this one has arithmetic under it. He told the room exactly how DeepSeek prices its API. Buy a batch of servers off the market. Set the price so the hardware pays for itself in about 10 months. That is the whole formula. 10-month payback works out to roughly a 6-fold return over the life of the box, and he called that reasonable. He also said the floor is lower, 3-fold, 4-fold, and it would still be a real business. He knows he is leaving money on the table. Demand at this price is inelastic, he said. Double it and token consumption barely moves. Have it and it barely moves either. He could raise prices and almost nothing would happen except more revenue. Instead, he went the other way. On the 22nd of May, DeepSeek made a 75% price cut on its flagship V4 Pro Permanent. Reuters covered it. The transcript is him explaining that decision months before the world saw it. The numbers today, from DeepSeek's own pricing page, 43.5 cents per million input tokens on V4 Pro, 87 cents out. The small model, V4 Flash, is 14 cents in. That is under a tenth of what the American Frontier APIs charge. Why not cut further? No room left, he said, and it would not make people any happier. The cut has already done its work. Which brings us to the sentence I keep coming back to. Those who take more get beaten by those who take less. You do not even need to actually take more. If your ambition is to take more, you lose to someone whose ambition is to take less. He ran it as arithmetic, with OpenAI as the worked example. Say you decide you only need 1% of global GDP. Reasonable. Someone else says they only need 0.1% and takes the market from you. It goes down from there. His conclusion? No windfall profits in this industry. The gaps between the big labs come down to two things, cost and time, and neither is wide enough to defend a monopoly. Whoever controls cost best earns a bit more. That is all, he said, and he has done this before. At real cost, Chinese New Year 2025, DeepSeek's app goes vertical. Tens of millions of new users land on it. He did not chase retention. He did not monetize them. He said outright that becoming the next ByteDance was absent from their minds. The fallback he gave the room is unglamorous and specific. A few $100 million of business revenue this year. Close to net profit next year. And if the technology froze completely, we would go all in on selling APIs, and that alone would support a listed company. Third claim. Open source here is not charity and not marketing. He tied it to a number. AI might end up at something like 10% of human GDP. At that size, he argued, no single company gets to hold it, and trying is how you get flattened by history. So the policy is blunt. Our strongest model will probably be open source too. I cannot see what good closed source does. Then he named a rival to make the point, ByteDance's model is closed. What is the benefit? I see none. An investor asked the obvious question, is the open model the same one you serve? His answer, yes, exactly the same. We would never release an inferior open model while running a better one internally. That is a commitment you can go and check. He also said he will help competitors reproduce his results. Alibaba, Zhipu, Moonshot, if you cannot reproduce it, we will show you how. He gains nothing from it. His reasoning? We were open source to begin with, so there is nothing to lose, and the receipts hold up. V4 Pro is out under an MIT license. 1.6 trillion parameters total, 49 billion active, a million tokens of context. His frontier model, not a cut-down one, shipped with the weights attached. Compare that. OpenAI has released open weights exactly once, GPTOS in August 2025, and said outright it was not the frontier model. Anthropic has never released weights at all. Both ship the strongest thing they have from behind an API. He also handicapped the American labs out loud, which few founders do. Anthropic has passed OpenAI, he said, but treat that as an extreme case, not a trend. Its coding lead will fade. About half of my own employees think OpenAI is the stronger lab. Anthropic just runs the cheapest, which is why the open source race has a Chinese starting gun. Hugging Face went back and measured the year after R1, and the numbers are not subtle. R1 became the most liked model on the platform of all time. Baidu went from 0 open releases to over 100. ByteDance and Tencent multiplied theirs 8 and 9 times over. In November, the leading American open weight model, DeepKogito's V2.1, was a fine-tune of DeepSeek V3. And the balance tipped. By the platform's own count, downloads of newly created Chinese models passed every other country, the United States included. The most liked models on Hugging Face are no longer mostly American. America noticed. Reflection AI raised $2 billion to be, in its own words, America's open frontier lab, challenging DeepSeek. The Atom Project names DeepSeek as the reason it exists. He did not enter the race. He set the terms of it. Fourth claim, and this one carries a deadline. Nvidia's CUDA moat, he said, is rapidly eroding. He gave 3 reasons for it. They are worth hearing, because one of them turns out to be wrong. Reason 1. AI writes the ecosystem now. What made CUDA hard to replace was 15 years of accumulated kernels and libraries, and code generation collapses that cost. Reason 2. Compute cards now outsell gaming cards, so an accelerator no longer has to be a graphics card wearing an AI hat. And CUDA's graphics lineage stops being an advantage. Reason 3 is the technical one. He said V3 trained on Nvidia silicon but not on Nvidia software, that DeepSeek wrote a high-level compiler called TileLang and built everything on top of it. Port TileLang to Huawei, and the migration is finished. Except DeepSeek did not write TileLang. I checked. The repository is tile-ai/tilelang, first committed in October 2024, with a paper on AirXEve from 11 authors at Peking University and Microsoft Research. Not one of them works at DeepSeek. What DeepSeek shipped is tile kernels, a kernel library written in tilelang, published this April with about 1,600 stars, adopting somebody else's compiler, not building your own. Small thing. It tells you what a leaked, unconfirmed transcript is worth. Now the loudest line in the whole document. I am fairly optimistic about domestic compute. On this point, Nvidia is digging its own grave. Huawei's 950 super node can fully replace Nvidia's GB200 and GB300 in performance and price. And the exchange rate he put on it, 4 Huawei cards match 1 Nvidia card. On the silicon itself, the gap is 4-fold plus 2 years. Every task a GB300 can do, he said, a Huawei super node can do at the same latency. That is his claim, in a document DeepSeek has not confirmed, with no benchmark named. The nearest real measurement is semi-analysis on Huawei's Cloud Matrix 384, about 5 times the chips for 1.7 times the compute, at nearly 4 times the power. Same direction, much uglier ratio. And then he undercut himself with a supply figure. Huawei has given DeepSeek 16,000 Ascend cards. In his own arithmetic, 4-to-1, that is worth about 4,000 Nvidia B series, enough to train this generation of models, and short for the next one. Big Chinese internet companies, he said, are taking hundreds of thousands. Hardware fine, ecosystem fine, he said. The only issue is production capacity, which is a strange thing to say 2 answers after telling the room the silicon is 4 times behind. The outside numbers do not help him there. The Council on Foreign Relations projects Huawei ships under 5,000 Cloud Matrix systems and around 600 SuperPods by 2027. Over the same window, Nvidia ships close to 300,000 comparable racks. But this claim is different from every other claim in 4 hours because it has a date on it. Within the next year, he said, something will be verified. The domestic chip ecosystem has no problems at all. That is testable. Put it in your calendar. Fifth claim, and it is the one his own researchers care about. He laid out a ladder to AGI in 5 rungs: language model, chain of thought, agents, continual learning, self-iteration, then and only then, robots. The reason AI cannot replace your colleague, he said, is a 2-month problem. You hire someone, they spend 2 months absorbing context, and after that you can say go and get Wang, and they just go. AI has no 2 months. You hand it the entire world on every single call. Agents are this year's rung, and he expects them to top out, the way chain of thought topped out. It will beat the best humans at Olympiad maths and at writing code, and it will still not be AGI, because it cannot carry yesterday into today, which is why he refuses to build in the other order. Solve continual learning first, and general intelligence gets easy. Build general intelligence by hand first, and it is data hungry, labor hungry, and poor value for the effort. His words, tiring and bitter. He gave the room a size for what comes next too. The next generation lands somewhere between 150 and 250 billion activated parameters, with training starting late this year at the earliest, bounded by the same thing as everything else. And here is the part one did not expect. The first customer for the next DeepSeek model is DeepSeek. He said it directly. The goal is not that everyone finds it useful, it is that we find it useful, because then we build the version after it faster. On the singularity, he is dry. There is no critical point. The curve just bends, because AI accelerates AI research. An investor asks whether a model trained on human data can ever exceed human knowledge. He reached straight for Go. AlphaGo played a move no human had seen, so it can surpass us inside a range. There may be a ceiling above that. We cannot see it from here. Does taste still matter once models self-evolve? AI does not lack taste, he said. Ask it to write an essay. What it lacks is memory. Now the least glamorous sentence in the entire document. Half our core researchers, our most important people, are labeling data right now, not training runs, not architecture, annotating. And the reason kills a favorite Western assumption. There is no cost advantage for data annotation in China, especially for high-end data. It costs the same in Hangzhou as it does in San Francisco, so he cannot outspend OpenAI on it, and he pays for it in researcher time instead of dollars. Hallucination got about 30 seconds. Solvable, he said, through better post-training. A long-term proposition that people simply have not put effort into. He treats it as a product problem rather than an intelligence problem, and it is not a priority. Multimodality got a similar shrug. V4 and everything after it supports it natively, but he classes vision and search as components, not intelligence. Useful parts bolted to the thing that matters. The thing that matters is the model learning on its own. What he refuses to build tells you as much as what he builds. Video generation. World models. 3D. Commercially good businesses, he said, and nothing to do with intelligence. He will help other people do them. He will not spend a researcher on them. One product does get priority, and it is the same one the rest of the field picked. Go all in on a general purpose agent and do coding first. Finance agents, doctor agents, the vertical products Anthropic has been shipping, lower priority for now. Then he was asked what he is actually protecting, and the answer was one sentence. Our single biggest core interest is preserving team stability. You could even say it is our only core interest. Keep the team, and we succeed at AGI. It is that simple. That is what the $7 billion was for. Not chips first, retention. Staff received fairly large option grants, he said, and the risk was substantially relieved. 50 billion yuan, functioning as a standing counter offer to every recruiter in the industry. The company underneath is stranger than the funding. No KPIs, no performance metrics. No written vision. He said it has not been documented anywhere. Formal work is capped at about half of anybody's time. The other half belongs to them, and the free half is where he thinks the breakthroughs come from. He called it a lucky dip. Exploratory research does not burn cards and does not need a dedicated team. What separates us, he said, is that we spend time discussing it and treat it as important. Somebody compared the setup to Bell Labs, and he pushed back. Bell Labs explicitly did not need to commercialize. We do. We are a company. We have to survive. And, his line, the government will not give me a single cent. On his own peers, he is brutal. The US has maybe 3 labs building foundation models. China has far too many. Resources spread thin, doing identical work. It converges, he said. 3 or 4 left in real competition, possibly 2 big ones and 2 small. And he sketched where China lands in the global division of labor. The largest manufacturing capacity, including chips, probably the most electricity. So it becomes one of the 3 players, and its AI is systemically cheaper, the way everything else it makes is. And then, from 4 hours of preaching restraint, if this era produces trillion-dollar companies, we will be one of them, which is the crack a Chinese tech outlet drove a truck through. 36 Key Air ran the counter-argument the same week. DeepSeek is owned by Highflyer, a quantitative hedge fund. Highflyer reportedly returned 56.5% in 2025 on more than 70 billion yuan under management. Liang personally put 20 billion of the 50 into his own round, 40% of it, which makes the restraint sermon land differently. On Bloomberg's index, Liang is now worth $36 billion, the richest creator of AI models alive. Greg Brockman is at 25.5, Dario Amodei is at 8, and the structure has no brakes on it. No non-profit parent, no profit cap, no foundation. Outside investors got economic rights, a 5-year lockup, no board seats, and no votes. He kept somewhere between 78 and 84%, and effectively all of the control. So 36 Kiar asked the sharp version. The question is not whether restraint is good. It is whether we should turn a sophisticated business strategy into a moral virtue. I do not think that kills the transcript. I think you hold both readings at once. And now the loop I opened at the start. The transcript surfaced on the 22nd of July. 3 days later, Bloomberg reported DeepSeek had told investors in its second round that the deal was suspended, reportedly because Liang was unhappy the meeting had gone public. That second round was targeting at least 480 billion yuan pre-money, about $71 billion, up from roughly 50 in June. The company has also begun preparing an IPO. 4 hours of candor, and it may have cost him the raise. So, the scorecard. Most of what he said is directional and cannot be graded. Fourfold plus 2 years has no baseline. A 3-month gap has no baseline. But one claim has a date on it. Within a year, China's domestic chip ecosystem is fine. That one you can mark right or wrong. If he is right, the export controls stop working and the cheapest frontier model on Earth runs on Chinese silicon. If he is wrong, he is 2 years behind on a 20th of the compute, holding a promise. Either way, he is the only frontier lab boss who answered the compute question with a number instead of a warning. That is worth 4 hours of anybody's time. Subscribe, and I will bring you the follow-up when that deadline lands.